Pew Research looked into statistics regarding people in America and what they think about offensive speech. So should the U.S. government step in and ban speech that's deemed offensive to minorities? Well, if you look at certain demographics, people say yes. Now let's look specifically at millennials, and this is the part of the study that actually infuriated me because it's my generation and they're wrong. Now if you look at U.S. millennials, 40% of them believe that the government should be able to prevent people from saying these things. 58%, luckily the majority, say that the government should not step in and allow people to say whatever they want. What is happening to us, okay? We cannot ban speech. That's not what this country was founded on. That's not allowed based on our Constitution. And I get it, people say offensive things all the time that I absolutely hate. But I'm not going to violate their right to say those offensive things because my feelings are hurt.
So first something goofy and then something substantive. I like that the generation that is 70 to 87 years old, otherwise known as the Fox News audience, has a name that I'd never heard before. They're apparently called silent.
What?
Yeah, the silent. Okay, there's Gen X, there's boomers, and there's the silent. It sounds like something out of the Game of Thrones.
I didn't even notice that, but that's awesome.
Okay, yeah. And how devastating would you be if you're in the silent generation?
Yeah.
Hey, I can't hear you. Speak up, dude. You're silent. Okay.
Now, keep in mind that the silent generation is probably the generation that's more likely to say the offensive things. So
exactly the second point I was going to make.
Yeah,
okay.
So they're trying to like protect their right to be racist, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, look, I get it. Like, European countries have banned hate speech. And hate speech is very different from speech that is meant to offend, right? But also, it's a slippery slope. So who gets to decide what is considered offensive language? Who gets to enforce those laws? Do we really trust the government that's extremely corrupt to make decisions about what is and isn't considered offensive speech toward minorities? I don't know. I don't really trust them. And also, think about this show. We say offensive things all the time, right? Because we criticize religion, for instance. We criticize religion pretty aggressively. And so what does that mean? Does that mean that the government steps in and says, hey, you know what? There's some like Christians and Muslims and ultra-Orthodox Jews that don't like what you have to say, so boom, fine. That's crazy. That's crazy. We are supposed to debate ideas, okay? That's what this country is about. And if you don't like debating ideas because you don't like getting your feelings hurt, well, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah. So I'm going back to the silence. Okay, now I don't want to be ageist, and there's wonderful members of the silent community in our audience, okay? I don't often hear from them. but they're there and I love them. So we don't want to generalize like people who don't think things through. So yes, let's be real, a higher percentage of that age group grew up in a different culture, right? And is more likely to say offensive things. Some because they want to say it and enjoy saying it. Mm-hmm. Some because they don't know that the times have changed and they'll say, oh, the Chinamen or this or that. No, don't say that, right? Better to be silent. Okay, but it doesn't mean that they're all guilty or they're all wrong. Of course not, right? And so now, the same idea applies to this entire conversation, right? We got to let people, we got to hear them out, right? And if you're not afraid of the battle of ideas, you shouldn't try to suppress anyone's speech. Now, even if they're hideous people. So now, look, most of the world does not agree with us. The Europeans don't agree with us. And only 35% of the 38 nations polled believe what we do, which is that offensive things should be allowed to be said. The government should not block offensive speech,
right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. 2/3 of Americans believe that. Government shouldn't block it, right? In the rest of the world, it's only 35% who believe that. It's a minority who believe that, right? So we get that offensive things hurt. We talk about it all the time. Now, it doesn't mean that you can go to either extreme. Well, I'm allowed to say offensive things, so I should. I should go out there and insult everybody, and I should generalize about them, and I should, practice race and bigotry, whatever you want. No, it doesn't mean you should do that.
Right.
It means you're allowed to do that, and then we can beat you back with our ideas.
That's exactly right. And another thing to take into consideration is offensive speech is different from speech that incites violence. So if you're inciting violence, there are already laws that protect people from that. And there should be laws that protect people from that because you don't want crazy people to carry out acts of violence because they've been incited. But at the same time, you should be able to debate ideas without the fear that you might offend someone and then the government steps in.
Yeah, I don't want anybody creating a bottleneck on speech. Let's have at it, Hoss. You know why? Because I'm a true believer. I believe that reason and logic will win. And so, look, in the short term, we suffer heavy casualties, right? And religion wins, and the right wing wins, in our opinion, right? We think that's the wrong way to go. But no matter what your politics are, do the people who are not operating based on facts come out on top in the short term? All the time, right? But in the long run, I believe that truth has an advantage. And so, being that believer, I say let it all out, and I bet we win, okay? And because at the end of the day, no matter how offensive you want to be towards 4, 2 plus 2 still equals 4. Okay, there are truths in the world. And if you're on the side of that, you shouldn't be afraid of anyone's speech.
Small thing. So, okay, we understand that we don't want speech to be limited because we're worried about whoever these arbiters are of what's going to happen to come after your own speech. So everyone's like, I can't say very basic, simple things because then whoever this government is that's in power 20 years from now is going to say, I don't like what you just said, and we're going to look like a third world country, right? So there's that. But then the problem that happens is I think we're or at least we're characterizing this group of minorities or the oppressed as just feelings getting hurt. This type of speech leads to actual violence where people actually die. So when people can come up on protesters and say, F you, you N-words, you this, you that, you're just monkeys, and this, and that, and then we go, have at it, then people get killed. And now we go, oh, well, maybe we should do something about that now. It's too late if that's your brother that got killed or your father or son that's dead. And you go, well, this is America. You can kill my kid. No, fuck you. We need there at least needs to be at least a recognition that these things are connected. It's not just, oh, you're my feelings. This leads to something. When people have a rabid sense in them, we talk about Donald Trump every day about how he tells his supporters, do this. Hey, you know what? Fuck them. They're not really humans. You can kill things that aren't humans. They're just a bug. So there's a thought process that begins and it develops into something worse. So maybe there is a middle ground. I don't know. There has to be because that's what we've always kind of worked towards. But let's not act like it's just everything has been treated fairly this whole time in our society.
But I think we're already in the middle ground. I don't know if I'm right about that, but so hear me out on this. So first of all, JR has an excellent example from today, right? So the guys in Minneapolis come in, white supremacists threaten black protesters who were protesting yet another unarmed black man being shot to death by the cops. And then it's not like the protesters shot him. No, they antagonized the protesters. The protesters tried to chase them away from the protest. And then the white guys took out the guns and started shooting at the black guys and hit 5 of them. Luckily, none of them died, right? So those words had consequences. So I hear what you're saying, JR. But I think the right middle ground is allow all speech, but, have reasonable bounds. You can't shout fire in a crowded theater. That's the cliched example that people use. You can't incite people to violence. You can't say, hey, you pick up that gun and shoot the guy. You can't say that. That's illegal, right? So it's not like there are no bounds to speech. There are bounds, right? For example, another bound to speech we can do is say money's not really speech and you can't give somebody $1 million and call that speech, right? So, of course, there are restrictions that you can give on speech, and we have some already. I would be hesitant to go further because as hurtful and as Trump is, he's going to be the victim if you say you are not allowed to say those things. And that's going to get bottled up, and then it's going to explode in a way that's, I think, even more counterproductive.